a quorum. It is 4:40. Call the meeting to order, and the chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda. I can make a motion to approve the motion. I'll second. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries. We have an agenda. Item 3, public input. The public is invited. Oh, is there any public input on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 3. The public is invited to present petitions, make announcements, or provide other information to the commission that is relevant to the scope of authority of the city of Blue Lake that is not on the agenda. The commission may provide up to 15 minutes for this public input session. To assure that each individual presentation is heard, the commission may uniformly impose time limits of 3 minutes to each individual presentation. The public will be given the opportunity to address items that are on the agenda at the time the commission takes up each specific agenda item. At this time, does the public have any comments on non-agendized items? Madam Mayor.
I believe this is on. Yes, I'm proud to be the mayor of Blue Lake, and I'm here to just inform the commission and the public that I'm here as the liaison. I'm reporting back to the council. I'm not a part of your commission. You operate separately. I'm the alternate to the liaison who would have been Elizabeth McKay, who stepped down from the council, and she will be replaced at our special meeting on October 6th. So just, I want to thank the commission for your service.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
It's like I had visited with the city, Annalee, yeah, because I was looking for y'all's minutes from like way back when, and I was so glad to see these posted for August. So I wanted to thank you for getting them because I'm new to trying to learn about the committee.
Tell me what your name is.
I forgot.
You forgot
No,
your name?
yeah, no, Lisa Hoover. Yeah.
Lisa Hoover.
Yeah, sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it's just like
No, I
that
wanted to
minutes.
thank and maybe it's Mandy, it's maybe city staff that got there because the minutes had been absent from
I know.
for a while. So but with all due respect, and I was trying to learn about it. And so I said, could they maybe get on it? So I was really glad to see this one, the one from August posted for this one. Thank you very much.
Colin? Okay. So at this time, we have minutes from our August meeting. Is there any comments on the minutes?
Not for me.
The motion to approve the minutes from the August meeting. Is there a second?
I can second.
All in favor of approving the minutes from the August meeting?
Aye.
Aye. So there was no comment other than on that. Moving on, item 5, retail cannabis ordinance discussion and action item. This was something that was on the previous agenda, and are we looking for a motion?
No.
We're just kind of keeping it open.
Yeah, so we brought this back as continued discussion. I think you guys were still doing some outreach and, just getting more information on retail cannabis operations, and just kind of looking to be able to present back to the commission on how it might be applicable to Blue Lake or what are some of the concerns you're learning about in the other communities. So I don't think there's a real rush on this issue, but you guys, I believe you have an ad hoc of Roxanne and Darcy that are doing some more, in-depth research.
You were waiting to hear back from Rio Grande.
Yeah, I need to follow up with.
And so then I think you were gonna give us some more information.
Hmm.
So it's
I kind of personally feel like it is something that we should allow. For one thing, it's legal. People use it. It's more convenient to have it here in Blue Lake than have to travel to Willow Creek or Arcata uh, for some sleepers or whatever. There was also the worry about how many permits we would allow, and I don't think that's an issue because the only empty buildings in Blue Lake don't rent to anybody anyway, and it would be probably something that would come in with our project on Taylor Way. And I have mixed feelings about making a cap on who can do what because I think if you have a business that brings people what they want and another person has the same business and it's not exactly what they want, then that in itself will be the modifier.
Market forces.
Market forces. So for one thing, there's no space that I can think of for something to come in. And when there is space, it would just be whoever has the best deal. And that kind of creates a best deal. I mean, competition. So that's just my personal theory. I think we should allow it.
I think it could generate some revenue for the city.
This is cannabis retail, uh, not growing, but the byproduct of cannabis. Like,
Does the public have any input or comments on the retail cannabis ordinance for Blue Lake? Lisa?
I'd just be curious. So there was no, I was curious what the other towns had said, and there's any summary on that at all, whether it be Arcadia, Eureka, and I know Rio Dell hasn't, but is there going to be a summary of that interview, so to speak? Thank you.
kind of working on that.
Mandy, did you want to? I mean, we had a sample ordinance from the city of Weed that council had reviewed and recommended because it was more conservative than what other cities are doing locally, and we wanted a more restrictive policy. I think there were some comments that the city of Eureka did not have a cap and they had a lot of competition, and maybe that's not so great for business owners.
Yeah, probably in your last meeting minutes, there's
The meeting
some of the
before even.
comments were captured in that. But yeah, I think you guys, had received some input and had, looked at other businesses and models. And I know I think Mayor Jones actually had gone down to Riadel and possibly former council member McKay, had gotten some information from other areas as well. We did have the weed ordinance that seemed a little bit more reflective of maybe what the city was looking at the time. So I think the council is just looking to the EDC to, provide them with any additional details or recommendations, additional insight. Honestly, I think the commissions are more flexible than the councils are as far as being able to get out and ask questions and talk and, just be a little bit more involved in kind of the information gathering process. So that's what we always kind of rely on our commissions to do through ad hoc commissions. So if you guys want to formulate kind of a recommendation back to council, I think that'd be great. You could do that at your next meeting. You could do it now. If you wanted to kind of synthesize it into a kind of a coordinated comment back to the council, that would be great. I think they would be appreciative of that.
If there is not a rush on this, we could put something together for next meeting.
Yeah, I don't think that there's necessarily a rush from the council on this. I mean, they do want to, keep the conversation moving forward, but
And we're about to have some new council members
Mhm.
in a month or
yeah,
two.
No news.
Okay, so is there any more public comment? Okay, so move on to item 6, the vacant commercial property assessment and ordinance discussion. Did see that Eureka passed a measure.
they did. So they do have an ordinance going through the process, and they did make some revisions, and so we've been kind of following that to see, especially the legalities of the process and the implementation. One of the things that I thought might be helpful as we're starting to kind of look at this is I kind of reframed this item to be the vacant commercial property assessment and ordinance discussion. So I think one of the things that would be really helpful for us is to get a handle on what vacant properties we do have and do an assessment of what their present condition is, how big they are, if they have retail or commercial space, what the status is of, are they up for rent or are they not up for rent? Do they need work to get them to a point where they could be, on the market? Or what are the owner's positions? So
Were there
thinking
exemptions to the what enforcement? Such, I mean,
yeah, so the enforcement side of it, I think it was if you have a building vacant for more than 90 days, you kind of have to have a plan basically. Like, are you actively trying to rent your building? Are you, taking care of it? They understand that not everything is rentable or will rent, but to have a building that just sits empty and there's no maintenance, no upkeep, no activity, no, you know, interest in doing anything more than letting it sit vacant and deteriorate. I think
well,
that's
at
really
that
what they're
point, you
trying to
would
work
think
with.
the property owner would think about like relieving themselves of the tax and insurance burden if they're
Some
not going to
people
get.
have buildings that are paid off and probably the tax values are very low and probably are probably much cheaper than it would cost to upgrade their buildings.
I
We
feel
have
like
property owners doing that right now.
I feel like our situation here in Blue Lake is a little different with our empty buildings
Mhm.
than some blighted areas in Eureka and like even some kind of Arcata because of vagrants hanging around. I mean, it must be really hard for people to want to put money or like it must be hard for a landlord and also someone looking for a place to rent when there's just like a real homeless problems right out in front of their doorway. How do you force someone? So but that's kind of problems for another city. I don't
Hmm.
feel like that's our problem.
Right.
I sympathize with those landlords because it's just such a huge problem, but I don't feel like that's our problem in Blue Lake. We've got this gorgeous downtown and this historic building and some other buildings that are just empty out of spite or dysfunction. And I years ago proposed a, a vacancy
Hmm.
tax, and we sort of held off on that
Through the
for certain
pandemic, but there's a
reasons
lot of
because something was
uncertainty.
going to
But
maybe happen in one
Hmm.
of those buildings. But it's just so sad,
Yeah.
you know. It'd just be so cool to see like an art gallery in one of those buildings or really something simple
the
where
carbon plan has been sitting for years,
and the
Absolutely.
and
carbon
it
plan
doesn't
is
seem to be
great. I
actively
mean, I'm
marketed or.
concentrating on downtown, but there's some other places too. So for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I thought maybe, stepping back and a first forward step would be a property assessment.
To see
Um,
if it's even
to
what
see
if it's suitable for any kind of use
and
or if it
let's
needs to
see
be
what the real
remediated.
problems are. And that would be helpful for the city and for the commission, I think, to see, if there are issues associated with it, maybe there's resources that we can bring to the table. Maybe there's things that we can do to help. If the
And we've
position
done
is,
that.
And Stardust is
We've
still
already done
vacant.
that
we
with
have to,
Stardos.
yeah, and there's, yeah. So maybe we need to do it more formal. And this is kind of a, a step with an end point. And maybe that end point is this type of ordinance because we can only sit back for so long. We don't have a lot of retail space in the downtown and the buildings are literally deteriorating and falling apart.
So the
So
enforcement is going to be fines that then.
I don't know. That's what Eureka is doing is they're doing, they have a system of penalties. They have a system for making improvements and working with people, but like I said, you can sit.
So could these eventually, the fines eventually become a judgment
Ab-
that attaches to the property?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you also, I like the idea of what you guys had talked about the last time, where maybe those fines then go back to the property owner in the form of a grant to put it
It's a
back into
cash
your building,
incentive.
you know? So I think there's ways and things you can do, but when you are in a downtown retail commercial zone, there are certain responsibilities attached to that. And that has impacts on everyone in that designated zone. And so it's not the same as just being like, well, I want to, let the weeds grow in my yard. I mean, although that has impacts to your neighbors on certain, in certain manners, impacts to a downtown commercial retail space are compounded when you have, buildings that are not being taken care of and they're not occupied, and there's no incentive to make any improvements. If you want to pay the taxes on a building that, was probably assessed, at a pretty minimal rate, it's a lot cheaper than going and making the repairs that are needed. So there is no incentive to necessarily invest in your property. But it doesn't make it right, especially when you're in a downtown sector.
I feel like there's sort of an evolution of uh 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 the word escapes me, but where people shop,
Mhm.
in the 70s it was a little more mom and pop, and then maybe in the 80s it got to be like
The
big
malls.
stores and malls, and that was really popular, and now it's sort of waning and coming a little more full circle and
Mhm.
back to small mom and pops. And so these little small stores like in Eureka, I'm thinking of Fourth and Fifth, and that it's taken a minute to get caught back up. And I think the next thing that's going to be empty and people are going to be complaining about is the mall,
Malls. Mhm.
so it's also this evolution of where people shop, and there's a word for it, commerce, sort of
Mhm.
an evolution of commerce. But
And I think that's absolutely correct. And that's where, a lot of communities are seeing, they haven't built a new mall, they said, in like 20 years. Like malls, just
the
people
little
don't want to go to
mhm,
malls anymore. People are looking more for that experience. And that's why people really like also small towns and
right,
coming and being able to shop
shop
locally,
local.
meet the
Uh-huh.
locals, get out, have an experience, know where your product's coming from. Maybe you're meeting the producer, maybe you're meeting the maker. And that's where small communities are starting to see their economic foundation solidify again. And it really is coming back to our historical,
Yes,
method of commerce and living, where
coming
we
full
people
circle.
lived in their own communities. They lived above their storefronts, and we did circulate our dollars amongst ourselves, which is great.
So
But
this
to not,
the opportunity costs of not having those commercial spaces in use
it's huge.
is big to the city,
Yeah, yeah,
and this
very
is
much
a
so.
stick.
So
Well,
it's
and like I
way
said,
bigger
it's
for Eureka than it is for us, but it's a real elephant in the room
Hmm.
in Blue Lake
yeah.
or
And when we
downtown.
look at like Calgon Carbon, we've been working with them for a number of years to transition that property over. And in fact, I had a really good conversation with the property manager just yesterday. One of their big issues has been, concerns about contamination, and that's one of the kind of the main stopping blocks, any type of title transfer, is making sure that you have, your environmental clearances and stuff. And so they've been really concerned because, the whole Powers Creek district was the Macintosh Mill, and although we know pretty much everything that's out there, all of those parcels have been looked at up one side and down the other. We have, tons of soils and borings and water samples and everything else that you could think of, this, because they're a fairly conservative company, their concern is, what if we have to do this phase two environmental to be able to do a real estate transaction? And what if something's found and then we have a known issue and, the sale doesn't go through? And then how big
So
is the
it's
issue going to
cheaper
be?
for them to just hold
It's
the
actually
property
cheaper
indefinitely.
than absolutely. So, but we've made some really good headway, and, that's becoming not as, economically feasible. You know, when you have continued break-ins and you have continued issues,
becoming a
it's
nuisance
becoming a
over there.
nuisance. It's an attractive
There's
nuisance. And
graffiti on it.
so we've been working with them pretty closely, and I had a really good conversation with John yesterday, and it looks like they're going to be moving forward to make those assessments. And there's a good chance that the city could also acquire that. We already have developers who are interested, who have been interested in the property. It's a beautiful property. Like that has one of the best views in Blue Lake.
Well, what they want to deed restrictions about make residential use?
There's Well, if we can get through the phase 2 environmental, I think that clears up a lot of
Yeah.
things. So, but there's a lot of opportunity to do something with those properties. So those conversations behind the scenes have been moving forward, and there has been a lot of interest in purchasing that property and developing it. The hurdle has just been, the
Lawyers
environmental
somewhere.
stuff. So kind of. But I think they're making some really good progress, and I'm hoping that does free up soon because really that is one of the most developable properties in Blue Lake, right on the river, the best views. You know, you could do a multi-story development. Top story is looking right up the Mad River, the North Fork. You know, sun rises right there. Like it's spectacular. So, yeah, there's a lot of conversations taking place. I think it's got a lot of potential for redevelopment. And then right next to the river, it's like the prettiest location. So, as we transition out of kind of these industrial, you know, contexts, a lot of different ideas start to come forward. So, but I think, I think in order to provide some legitimacy to moving forward with maybe a future ordinance for the city, I think having some really good data would be helpful. And I think an assessment that was done maybe by this commission to get a handle on what are we looking at, what are the potential costs, are there resources available to provide assistance? Um, would there be interest if these, buildings were put back into service? I think would be really helpful. And I think it's something we can't continue to, turn our backs on anymore.
Well, there can't be that many parcels to search.
There's not. No, no, there's not. I mean, it's pretty obvious. You probably, everyone probably knows.
This is the privately owned stuff, not
Yeah.
the stuff owned by the city.
Yeah.
And this is just commercial. It's not residential.
Yeah, just commercial.
'Cause I
Yeah.
think Eureka's looking at both. Were they?
I think they may have been looking at like residential, like commercial residential, like
Okay.
larger, like
Okay.
maybe a
Multifamily,
multifamily. Yeah,
mixed use properties.
probably. Yeah. But I think they were focusing more on the commercial side. So I don't know how the commission feels about doing an assessment. Like I said, I think, before we can move forward with a recommendation to council for anything, I think we really do need the data. And it's, I don't think it's a huge lift. Like I said, we're talking less than, probably 5 or less parcels. Um, but I think it's important to be able to have something to look at and analyze and then, move forward with.
So, do we need a committee to come up with this list and a plan?
I would think you guys would have an ad hoc, and you may want to think about, we did do we brought back the business outreach, discussion, um, as well. And I don't know if it makes sense just to wrap those two together and have one ad hoc that was doing business
Well,
outreach and
yeah. So another subcommittee or an ad hoc committee for vacancy, commercial vacancy and business outreach.
yeah, I mean, you can, because they're not quite in order of discussion. I think just keep that in the back of your mind if if
Mhm.
it makes sense.
Give some thought
Okay.
to that.
Okay, so does the public have any comment on the vacant commercial property assessment and ordinance discussion, item 6? Yep. Okay, so can we just pick that up for an ad hoc when we get down to item? Okay, so we'll move on to item 7, Blue Lake branding and signage update discussion.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of give you guys a quick update on where we're at. We had brought the branding back to you guys at the last meeting. Noah had made some changes as recommended by the commission, and we did kind of a soft launch of the branding. We have two temporary signs in Blue Lake, one at the Powers Creek District entrance. They're just vinyl signs that are just trimmed out. And then one when you first come into town that tells you, downtown, take the next, keep on going. Don't go this way on the circle. Um, so we printed up the two banners and installed those and just
They
wanted
look
to
good.
I think they look nice
Yeah,
too. We're
I like
getting a
them.
lot of really good feedback from it. We wanted to kind of see how people reacted to it, how it looked in the space. We started also adding the branding logos. We're starting to add those now to certain aspects of city function. So letterhead and starting to put them on public hearing notices and kind of transitioning in to kind of see how they look on print. One of the things,
Stickers.
yeah, where Emily is going to be working on merchandise. But yeah, we had a really good launch of it. Noah, I was really happy. Noah kind of launched it for us. Noah's the artist from Visual Concepts. So it was nice because when he launched, helped us kind of launch it, he did kind of a whole explanation of why he recommended
It was
things.
nice.
Yeah, so I thought it was good for people to see. I think it's really important to remember that there's a whole science behind branding and marketing, and that's what people like Noah specialize in. That's their skill set. He's very good at what he does, and there's a lot of thought that goes into it, from colors to way it translates across social media platforms and different advertising outlets and merchandise, and just what colors create what kind of sense and feel with people. And so there's a lot that goes into it. And I think he did a really good job. There's definitely opportunities, if we want to tweak something or we can adjust things for different applications. But what we've tried to do and come up with was kind of a core image that can then be marketed across activities and functions. So being able to apply it to different things. So whether it's a horse event or a roller skating or a bike event, he created a new one for the bike park that
I
has,
thought that was wonderful.
yeah,
It was. I mean, it really shows how it can be so flexible.
yeah. And that was a big part of the whole process is creating what we call badges. So each type of recreation activity has kind of its own badge that has, that imagery is in there somewhere, but it's really focused on that activity. So you mark it to those demographics. And, that's going to be a huge opportunity for the city through Parks and Recreation to be able to now, like Roxanne said, where are the stickers at? Like the stickers, the hats, the shirts, the sweatshirts, all of that, comes with this process. And so new signage, we're starting to look at, City Hall. We definitely need some new signage. And so he was able to, some of the thought process around the imagery too is how it translates to different types of signage as well. And so if you have so certain aspects that have to be kind of thick in the banding because if you like are cutting it out of metal and things you don't want to have small pinch points that break and things that I hadn't even thought about. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I've done that before on my Cricut. You cut something out and you're like, oh, like I never should have made it that fine. Now the eye fell off because it's not connected to anything. So that was something that was like, okay, that makes sense too. So um yeah, so like I said, we kind of soft launched it and kind of seeing how it's translating. And so far, we're not going to make everyone happy. Obviously, there'll always be people that, see things differently, and that's okay. We don't all see things the same. We don't see colors the same. Things don't evoke the same feeling from others, and so, we can't, but we got to kind of, cut the wide swath and hit the majority there. So that is happening, and I don't know if you guys have any questions or any concerns about that, but that's kind of where we're at. And this has been a big project that you guys have been working on for a really long time. So
I know, right? It has. It's
it's been
finally
years.
gotten up there. I was really
Things
sharp.
take time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
It's-
Wayfinding signage.
Yeah, and we are working with the Chamber of Commerce. I think eventually in the future, we will be looking at a new sign for the entryway to Blue Lake. Both groups recognize that, the signage, needs to be updated. There's, aspects of it that, have just aged out, and so does it make sense to continue to keep trying to maintain things that maybe are past their useful life, or do we look at, incorporating something that we partner on to have a new, update the sign, which I think would be totally fine. And so we've been working with the chamber a lot, and Justin has been, and Jeff Hackney have been really great at, working with us. And so we're throwing around a lot of ideas, and that'll be kind of a fall winter project. And maybe in the spring we emerge with, an idea and maybe implement something at that point. So.
Well, there's an opportunity to market Blue Lake to tourists
Mhm.
through the new visitor center that's opened in Eureka.
Yeah.
that
And so
has
this will be great to have some of this
something-
new stuff
yeah.
available. Yeah.
Does the public have any comments on item 7, Blue Lake branding and signage update discussion? If you like, yep. Lisa, you have 3 minutes.
Would that then become before this Lisa Hoover, would that go before the council then? Is that the process that if there's uh, you were talking about the sign that has all the historic organizations and things like that. Would that come before the council to review?
So
Before
that's
it was,
I absolutely. I mean, honestly, the sign is owned by the Chamber of Commerce. It's not
Okay.
owned by the City of Blue Lake.
Okay.
So we're working with them in partnership. So first, it's a chamber decision. It's also, I think we need to involve the school because it's also school property.
Right.
So yeah, and at some point, the council would be apprised of it as well. It'll go through the commissions first. Probably Arts and Heritage and EDC will have a first go with all of that.
Okay, so the opportunity that could be on a council meeting for the public to hear about it. Okay.
Mhm.
Any other comment? Moving on, item 8, business outreach, discussion, direction.
Yeah. So this one I think we kind of resurrected this one because I don't think we ever actually did anything with this. And I know at the last Chamber of Commerce meeting that I had attended, the chamber was talking about some business outreach as well. And I thought, well, I better bring this back to you guys and see if, because I thought, well, maybe it's a good opportunity to partner with the chamber rather than having the EDC going out and talking to businesses and the chamber talking to businesses. Just because we don't have a ton of them, they might feel like what's going on. So I thought I wanted to bring this back as a discussion and direction item to see if what the EDC thought about partnering with the chamber. And then since Justin is here, Justin's the new chamber president. Maybe he could give us a little bit of feedback too. But in the past, we talked about going to the businesses, having the EDC have an ad hoc that would do business outreach, talk to the businesses about where they're at. What do they see as some of their concerns? What do they see as opportunities for the city or the chamber um, to help? Are there things that we could be doing to assist them? Are there special needs that they have? What do they think about our current, attempts at marketing? How are the events helping them or not helping them? Like, where are some of the gaps in connection that might be helpful, or maybe things are going fine. We do have a lot of businesses that are just not just producers, but aren't necessarily interested in like selling retail. They're more wholesale distributor type businesses, but it doesn't mean that there
And
couldn't
there's
be an
service-based
opportunity.
businesses too,
Mhm.
like artists.
Is this prompted by Julie Christie's suggested generating a survey?
No, this is something that the EDC has been talking about for quite a while. And I think it was one of the items that just kind of fell off our radar. We had talked about, it being a good time to reach out to businesses and see how things are going.
We've done something before the pandemic, so it's
I
Yeah,
good
did
to
that
yeah.
with you got a grant to, and everybody, you went around and
We
got
did, and I think it's time to do it again. As we're starting to see, changes in the community.
Could that
You
just be done with a paper survey that was handed out to businesses, or do you
I
feel
think
like it's a
so, but
face-to-face
I feel
thing?
like a face to face would be better, honestly. I think more conversations need to be had. I think when you have a paper survey, I think it would be nice for the EDC to have a good feel for the businesses that we have in our community. There's probably a lot of businesses we don't even really aren't even on our radar.
Right.
That
I think
Is there a directory that the chamber has?
we they they have their membership. We also have a business license database for
Okay.
anyone doing business in Blue Lake.
well we did when the commission first started.
Hmm.
We did kind of divvy it up and we had some survey questions
Hmm.
and I'm not sure where that is anymore, but we would go to different businesses and talk about what their needs were and how many employees they had or
Right.
things like that so that we could get a feel about what there was. Some businesses were not very open
Hmm.
to having us visit.
Right.
Tabling at a chamber mixer, the next one that the chamber does. Is there a Camp Bauer mixer coming up?
I believe so, yes.
Like maybe October, November?
I think so, yeah. I think it's in October.
Would
Yeah.
that be a good thing to do in conjunction with?
I think it could be a part of it, but I think what the chamber is also trying to do is get more businesses involved in the chamber. So I don't necessarily think the that even a probably quarter of the like businesses participate in those events. And so I think that's something that the chamber is trying to do too, is make businesses aware of what the chamber does. The chamber wants to know what they do.
I'm not going to show up for a free beer and then Camp Bauer is really not that interested in it.
And is that just the 1 mile circumference of Blue Lake, or does that extend to this Glendale,
I would say
Country
go
Road?
ahead and limit yourself to the city of Blue Lake. I don't think it's a bad idea though to think about Corbell, because I think that is a missed demographic for certain things. We have a new food truck in town that we're working with, and we're trying to connect her to the mill for breakfast items on days when there's not food around. So there might be some real gaps in, like making connections for Green Diamond, the mill, even to what you have to offer. Or, maybe if they said, hey, if we could just call in an order, or if you pre-made this, because we only have so much time, it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
their lunch break is before
9:30.
I open,
Yeah, yeah.
except for the bosses.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, there's an opportunity there. Um, but yeah, I just think, I think it would be a good idea to, we try and touch base with the businesses as much as we can, the ones that are mostly have the storefronts, trying to connect them to events and seeing how, you know, uh, what we can do. The city can only do so much though. Like we're pretty limited, but like we had the big Enduro weekend. So Emily and Austin, went to the different businesses that they could get to, and ask them if they'd like to be on a little promo sheet and give a discount or some type of coupon. So every rider that came in and registered, which there were 220 plus riders, they all in their registration packet, they got a little like, welcome to Blue Lake, we're so glad you're here, Here's, some coupon deals from, the different businesses. And whether people used them or not, it, at least let them know. And it at least connected the businesses to the event a little bit to be like,
Following
you
up
know,
on that would be
yeah,
interesting to
yeah,
see how that worked out for any of them.
right.
I really appreciate when you put out the flyers, and I feel like you go above and beyond putting that energy out and letting the public know about events and food happening on Friday. And you are making a huge difference with the connectivity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I can't do that creative Facebook stuff or posters.
Well, I can't cook,
Emily's
so
really good, so I totally appreciate you guys putting in the extra effort to get the word out to our little world.
Well, the Enduro sells out pretty quick.
within an hour this year. Yeah. It was the biggest one they've had. So
And
yeah.
a really good group of people,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
One thing we did talk about at one point was maybe inviting the businesses to meet with us, the Economic Development Commission,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there maybe springboarding to go and do the individual. I don't know if that's still an idea or not. And then the other thing, are we still going to consider having Khaled come and talk about economic development?
Yeah, I would love to do that. I think that was a really beneficial, program that we had last time meeting.
Did
Yeah.
Those were the
Garth
things.
reach out to
I
you?
believe I did receive something.
Okay. I just want to
I
make
had,
sure
yeah,
that there wasn't something that lost in the translation.
yeah. Um, yeah, I think, and part of what I think we have with our businesses too, our businesses are like Darcy's business. Like Darcy is the business, Darcy is cooking, shopping, prepping, selling, marketing, like doing all of these things. And it's sometimes hard to find the time to, like, because the chambers put on a couple of different like small business roundtables and, trying to, like,
Did
hey,
it work pretty well? Do you remember, Justin? Did people show up or
not really.
um,
No.
okay,
And then
never mind.
we've tried to, and I think honestly, a lot of people are just really busy working, you know?
No, so that's kind of we need to go to them.
Yeah.
We
And
do.
sometimes, like I'll go down, and go talk with the guys down at Paradise K and, and like you literally just got to go sit on the sofa and hang out while they're working and, talk while they're working and, go out into the shop with them while they're working. And, it's like, hey, come on, I gotta go grab this order. But yeah, here's what we're doing, da da da. You know, some of the same with, with the distillery and stuff. They're working. They're, they don't necessarily have the time. And I feel like sometimes it's it's not that it's asking too much, but probably at the end of a really busy day and and you get something and you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta fill this survey out, or they want me to come in and I'm tired, I
Yeah,
gotta get home,
never
you
mind.
know. I just think it's kind of the nature of our businesses that
Yeah,
they are
no,
small.
that makes a lot of
So,
sense.
That Murphy's ad probably took 2 hours.
right.
No, I'm not kidding. That gal showed up, and then here we go. I'm like,
Yeah,
well, if
that's a
you
lot.
showed up and now it's on. No, it took a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was great. I mean, it was,
I had a lot of feedback from that ad. A
yeah,
lot
it
of
was
people like, oh,
exciting.
we we better thought we better come out and try it. So
Yeah.
it was good,
Yeah.
but it
My
didn't
colleagues still
just come
talking
up and
about it.
get an interview. It came up and had to go hang out and answer a few questions or get a few questions and then go back out. Anyway,
Well, did she at least buy a hot dog?
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we're
busy.
working.
Yeah.
And back on the Khaled thing, it might be something that we want to do after the elections
Yeah.
because then you're going to have some new council
Hmm.
members and it would be good for them to kind of understand more about what economic development is and
Right.
how it doesn't just happen overnight.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It takes time.
Not
Yeah.
if you're gonna get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's something to put on the
Hmm.
that.
Yeah. And there's some really good stuff happening. There's a lot of stuff that's been leading out there. We've been working a really long time on, the Powers Creek district alone, just, years of looking at rezoning and, just really identifying resources, master planning, strategizing, kind of thinking things through, applying for funding. There's a lot of environmental analysis taking place. And, it's literally been years. And, but now there's actually some real interest. There's some real touch points that, it's like, oh man, maybe someday someone will build something. 'Cause but we're getting that close, but it does take a long time to get through that process.
And then the exposure through your Parks and Rec
Hmm.
is making a big difference, I
Yeah.
would think, because you have people that come out and go, "This is pretty cool out here. Maybe
Yeah.
I should have a little business here."
Hmm. We have so much interest.
If I
We
worked here,
just,
I could go ride my bike in the
hmm
afternoon.
you should have heard the people that were riding the enduro. I mean, we had, everyone camped down on Taylor Way. So it literally was a pop-up RV park, and campground. And people just loved Blue Lake. They parked, they rode their bikes everywhere. You could just hear people talking about like what a cool town. The people are so nice, the weather's great, they, talked to people, they, went to the businesses, they loved the trails, they loved the bike park going in, and just really, there was so much positive feedback about the community. And, honestly, probably 95+% of people in Blue Lake had no idea that event was even taking place.
No.
I mean, that's just an honest,
It's not loud.
it's not loud. The majority of people in Blue Lake, live, further up. If you don't have a reason to go down to Taylor Way, you probably wouldn't go down there. Um, so it's kind of exciting to see that you can have, events like that and have something that's becoming, a very much a national kind of attraction. I mean, we had people from all over came to that event. I mean, there were license plates from a lot of different states that were here because of that bike event. So pretty cool for Little Blue Lake to, to be that host. So
That was great.
yeah. So I don't know what you guys think. If it would be helpful, I could take a first go at maybe like some survey questions. Maybe I could do some research on what you guys did before. Or
Let's do the directory, like who we were who we were reaching out to, and how we tailor that to the chamber. I don't know, but maybe some of these
yeah,
businesses
just
are.
maybe you could kind of give some feedback on what the chamber is thinking.
Okay, so early chamber report. So that was actually a topic of our, uh, I was actually number one this week. Um, so I went around and asked everyone what they thought the chamber was supposed to do and got some feedback of what they thought the chamber was supposed to do and how we realized that goal. And they came to the same conclusion I did. So when I became president, I was handed a binder about yay thick,
Congratulations.
and it had all the rules, regulations, all kinds of cool stuff in there, and one of which was a list of questions that you should be asking a business every month. And you were to pick a new business every month. When they quit doing it, I don't know, but so I reinstated that. So we each picked a business, and we have 1 month to check in on that business. And next month, we're all picking another business. And then we will be checking in with two businesses. Eventually,
Get to the source of
We
the
could start at the bottom of the list and
Right,
keep
work your way
working
up.
to the top. And if we just kind of make it a regular rotation over a course of months and
we could
years,
start
we
working on
would.
something like that. Yes. Um, so we have let's see. I chose Jewel Distillery. Um,
Michael's got a lot to say.
yes, he does, and I got to hear some of it before, so I figured I'd go ahead and continue that conversation with him.
Good.
Um, and then we have the Cruising Kitchen is being talked to. We have what was the other one? The other one was Lager Bar, and then what was the fourth one? Can't think of the fourth one off the top of my head, but I know there's a fourth one.
Tap room?
I'm sorry.
The tap room?
No, they weren't on the first round,
The
but they will be.
Toyota sales?
No. Um, huh?
Blue
They're a
Heron?
lot of
Kiko's.
businesses.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like, there's not that many we
That
can get
that
this
that
way.
was it. There's not many to choose from, so we're wanting to start with our brick and mortars, and then we'll get the list of business licenses and start going through. And we want to get all the I don't, like I said in the chamber, I don't care if you make beer, sell beer, or if you sell earrings. I want you to be representative by the chamber. So when we vote, when we make a decision that affects one of them, we have a face and a person to put behind what it is that we're making decisions on. So
Justin,
for
could you email me your questionnaire and I could get it to the commissioners
I
so
can
that
certainly do that. Yes.
that would be really helpful. Yeah, and I think, maybe we do like a quarterly meeting, co-meeting, EDC and Chamber of Commerce, or like
It might be
maybe
helpful to
or
get the Small
something.
Business Development Center connected into that because this
Hmm.
is maybe one of Will's getting the networks connected.
Right.
Well, if you guys wanted to create, say, an ad hoc and you guys wanted to show up one day before your meeting, we have a meeting every second Monday at 5:30,
Or you could be a
and
liaison to the chamber.
you could
That
do
could
that
be,
as well. Or one of you could even
yeah.
join the chamber if you really wanted
Yes.
to, and then you'd have
I'm a
firsthand
member.
knowledge.
I'm a member.
Well, you can come on and enjoy the laid back chamber meetings that we have, and maybe even sit up at the desk with us.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. There's Blue Lake's pretty small, and it would be nice to have, especially on the economic development side, kind of a coordinated effort between the two entities.
Very much so.
We could
Let's
take
try to.
turns going to the chamber meeting. Yeah. I mean, I always think, oh, I need to go. I want to go, but
And
need
then
a
we've
little
got this
push
meeting the
myself.
next day, and it's
Right.
just like
Yeah,
it's 2 long days in a row. And
right.
yeah.
They're pretty good with their time. They're pretty
We had
efficient.
a 30-minute meeting.
You
Yeah.
too?
Oh,
Wow,
Yeah.
nice work.
How much public?
I
Honestly, we get a little bit,
Do you?
but most of it's constructive.
Oh, well, that's good.
We Mandy attends some when we had like the signage and stuff like that, which I'll talk about later when I do the chamber report. But but yeah, we would love to have you guys come into a meeting and
when are your
share with us.
meetings, Justin?
Every second
Yesterday,
Monday.
Second.
the day before this one at 5:30.
So
Yep.
it's this week of meetings.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you
Yep.
stay
Okay.
after, you can go to the Arts and Heritage meeting right
Oh,
after
okay.
Yep, that too.
Yeah.
Is it where are the meetings?
Right here.
Here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Next month, it's weird because of the way the month is. It's going to be a little skewer. It'll be, I don't know.
Oh,
With
because
it
of
being
what
like
day
the
that started. Okay.
Yeah, so it won't be exactly one I have
And then what time, Justin?
5:30.
5:30.
Okay. Monday.
Well, maybe that's a really good starting point if you guys want to hop in with the chamber since they're already doing this.
And a copy.
Yeah, I think the businesses would be would appreciate it. We try and Emily and I try and touch base as much as we can, or just like let people know like, hey, this is happening. Just but we can't stay on top of all of it. So
So if we could get around to like if everybody can make a call once a month
hmm
for our meetings, we can cover a lot of ground.
hmm
And I'd be curious to know how people are finding out about city events, or
yeah,
if they're feeling like they're included and that they're an
hmm
opportunity to promote their business and
right,
stuff like that.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think there's
next
some
month
real good
it's
data.
weird because of the way the months is set out. So the chamber is on October 14th, and then you guys are October 8th. It's kind of
Oh, how's that?
Oh, because there's no first Monday.
Yeah.
yeah. There's no
Yeah.
first Monday.
Gotcha.
The first is on a Tuesday, so that kind of skewers it. So in October it won't be
Oh my God. Oh, so much.
yeah.
It never ends.
It does not.
Which is good.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Which is
That's what I
good.
was telling Emily and Austin, like last month I was like, you guys, we got to get ready. We're gonna be fall, like school's going back, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my god, you guys, school starts tomorrow. Like, are you ready?
I need to make offers. Does the public have any input on business outreach?
Do you have to go, Mandy?
Maybe.
So passenger vehicle fire was spread to the wildland in Glendale. Let me see how many responders. This happened last time. You guys are like my jinx.
I think we are.
As long as it gets out.
Yeah. Got 2 people responding so far. Yeah. Well, are you guys okay with that?
Let's see. We could table the City of Blue Lake project updates for next time.
No new updates?
Not really. I mean, we're going to be laying the sod at the town square hopefully Thursday. We're prepping everything right now. Um, so that way we can get the splash pad going and stuff too. So we're pretty close. We're getting close.
Cool.
In Powers Creek, we still just kind of at the same spot. Work's just progressing. And hopefully I'll have more details next month on maybe we'll make some bigger jumps forward. Um, and Emily is not here for Parks and Rec tonight, but like Darcy said, we do have Medieval Festival will be kind of our big one, and we're kind of ramping up now, getting skating. We have working with Cruising Kitchen to kind of take over our sessions of things. So looking at some more food options for those nights.
Is it going to be in the park too, in addition to the?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we're trying to kind of get her up to the town square more regularly. She is going to be working out at North Fork Lumber to try and hit some of their breakfast times when we have those gaps to kind of help backfill because, it's hard to, it's hard. And then, working in Prash for skating, helping us with some of our parties and different things will be really helpful too.
So, Mandy, if you need to go, we can.
Yeah, we can wrap this. We want to probably wrap this up in the next 15.
Okay.
20
Are you
minutes
guys
anyway.
okay if
If we,
Yes.
yeah, no, wildland fire responses. And the neighbors will have it up by the time you get
I know
there.
that's
but
what I'm hoping. We do have some responders. Oh, look at Jason's already in his outfit. All right, well, thanks.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
Are there any comments on item 9, the City of Blue Lake project updates?
And I'll just throw it from that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the chamber reports, remainder of the chamber report.
All right. So we also talked about the sign. We really liked the design. Had a couple of ideas where arrow shouldn't turn; it should straight ahead.
Eh,
Yeah. So, but otherwise, we are wanting to keep working with the city to try to. We kind of like the design, so we would like to just make that in metal and move it up, and then also copy the colors because we're kind of wanting to make sure that it doesn't look like, oh, 2 different signs. So we want to copy the colors, the blue will match the blue, the brown will match the brown. That way it looks like the 2 signs belong
Is
together.
what's eye catching there on the bottom there.
I really like the white, so maybe we'll have some white and some blue, just
Some contrast will draw the eye.
something to kind of draw attention. So yeah, we're still working with the city closely to make that happen. Again, everything with government is always slow. I would love to just say, yeah, let's do it and be done.
And this is complicated by multiple governments and entities involved. So it's
Yes, everything goes slower. Um, and so we're moving away from our PayPal and going to Square.
Mhm.
So that was another thing we're working on. Um, so PayPal should be closed out here pretty soon. Um, and then Emily gave me a gavel, so that was pretty cool. So now I have a hammer. Um, And I think that was pretty much it.
Well, well, for half an hour, you covered a lot. Are there any comments on the Chamber of Commerce report? Moving on to item 11, which will, I guess, have to be tabled since the city manager has left the meeting. Oh, excellent.
I just want to announce that because Elizabeth McKay stepped down off of the city council, we, the council, will ask for people to apply for the position, and the applications are due September 27th. And the council has scheduled a special meeting on October 8th to go over those applications and choose someone to replace the remaining term of Elizabeth McKay, which is another 2 years. Concurrently, there is an election going on for 3 city council seats. We have 7 applicants. I'm one of them. And we have scheduled on Thursday, September 26th, a candidates forum at the Mad River Grange, hosted by the Ladies of the Lake and run by the League of Women Voters. And they do a great job with that event. It's at 7 to 8:30 on, again, Thursday, September 26th. And we had to do it before the ballots come out because with early voting, the ballots are supposed to be out on October 7th. So we had to make sure that this happened before the ballots came out so that people wouldn't go and say, oh, I've already voted. We want to have an open mind on that. So we don't know how many of the 7 will show up, but we have that. We have that scheduled. And I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
So the candidates, other than Elizabeth, will be voted on, but Elizabeth's position will be chosen.
Because Elizabeth's position, she's in the middle. Elizabeth McKay stepped down in the middle of a 4-year term.
Yeah.
So whoever is chosen to fulfill her position will have a 2-year term.
And then
This next 3 positions is a full 4-year term. Yeah.
gotcha.
Now, I asked the lawyer that evening that we discussed this, what if someone from the roster that's applying or that's running for city council wanted to apply for this position, what would happen? And then they would run. It could get confusing. But basically, if something
We
like,
don't have ranked choice. Or
no, we
you'll
don't.
just be on the ballot and you'll vote for 3 of the following 7.
Right.
And so
You can
we
only
would-
vote for 3, no more than 3, when you vote. Yeah. So, but that's, those are 2 separate issues, more or less.
Yeah. But one person can't hold 2 seats. So
Well, right.
they would
So
have
if
to reappoint somebody to fill, they would resign from Elizabeth's term.
exactly,
and
it would
serve a
be
new
very complicated, but you got it, Roxanne.
Okay.
If somebody actually went and one of those 7 people, say, applied, and then we put them on, and then by some coincidence, because they're on the ballot, they're going to be on the ballot. So then they win. So then the winning would take precedence over the appointment. So then we would be back to having to appoint someone for the rest of Elizabeth's
So-
term.
And then are you waiting for the election to have the input of the new uh for council members to then appoint Elizabeth's spot? Or does Elizabeth get
No, they're going to fill that
appointed before the
vacancy.
election?
They're gonna
Yeah,
fill that vacancy
Elizabeth's
before the election.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Elizabeth's spot, the applications are due September 27th, which is a Friday, for Elizabeth's spot. We're having a special meeting on October 6th to choose someone to fulfill her position. The election is on November 5th. Lots of dates. Anyway. So I know September 27th is the date for the people that are interested in applying for Elizabeth's position. And you're right, I'm sorry. It is Tuesday, October 8th is a special meeting set aside just to Hopefully, the applicants will be at the meeting if they want to be considered. And it's a city council decision. It is not a staff decision. It's entirely city decision who will be on the council for her position.
Thank you. Does the public have any announcements? Okay, so for future agenda items, I think we'll have more discussion on the business outreach for sure. And any other ideas for future agenda items? It's time.
Are we still doing the visioning? Do I still keep it on there?
I don't see it on here.
Oh, it's under the minutes. Yeah, under future agenda items.
Oh, well, it's
I'll
on
look it up.
under this agenda.
Okay.
I think that comes under the branding and signage.
I think we're
yeah,
gonna do
you're right.
some of that CBD. It, looking at
Yeah, we'll have to get together.
business
Yeah, you said
outreach.
Mondays are good for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll just have Monday.
Hi.
Hi. Second,
What time is that? Is that